While my wife was making dinner, I got a message from her phone. "Baby, I miss you so much." I was stunned, but then I replied for her, "Come over, my husband isn't home today." 2 hours later, when the doorbell rang, a man was standing at the door. Let me back up. It was a Tuesday. I remember because Tuesdays were meatloaf nights in our house. Rachel had been making meatloaf every Tuesday for 17 years, and I'd been eating it without complaint for just as long. The rhythm of our marriage was built on things like that. Predictable, steady, unexciting. I was 46 years old, working as a project manager for a mid-sized construction firm, and I'd accepted that the peak of my life had probably already happened somewhere in my 30s without me noticing. The kitchen smelled like onions and tomato paste. I was sitting at the dining room table with my laptop open, pretending to answer emails but really just scrolling through news articles I'd forget within minutes. The TV in the living room was on, some cooking competition show that Rachel liked to have playing in the background. Everything was normal. Everything was fine. Rachel's phone was charging on the counter, 3 feet from where she stood chopping celery. I needed to check the time for a meeting reminder, so I reached over and tapped her screen. The message notification was right there. "Baby, I miss you so much." The contact name was just a single letter. J. I stared at those 6 words for what felt like a full minute, but was probably only 5 seconds. My brain went through the usual gymnastics. Maybe it was a friend, maybe it was a joke, maybe it was a wrong number, but I knew, you always know. There's a tone to those words, an intimacy that doesn't exist in regular friendship. Rachel had her back to me. She was humming something, some melody I didn't recognize. Her shoulders moved with the rhythm of the knife against the cutting board. She had no idea I was holding her phone. I should have confronted her right then. That's what a normal person would do. That's what happens in movies. The dramatic reveal, the shouting, the tears, the apologies or accusations. But I didn't do that. Instead, I unlocked her phone. She'd never changed her passcode from our anniversary. How's that for irony? I opened the message thread. There weren't many messages, which meant either this was new or they'd been careful to delete things. The conversation was sparse, generic. Thinking about you, can't wait to see you. Last night was amazing. Nothing explicit enough to be concrete evidence, but intimate enough to leave no doubt. The most recent message before the "baby, I miss you so much" was from 3 days ago. She'd sent, "Same time Thursday?" He'd replied, "Can't wait." Today was Tuesday. I looked up at Rachel. She was scraping the celery into a bowl, her movements efficient and practiced. She wore yoga pants and an old college sweatshirt. Her hair was pulled back in a ponytail. She looked exactly like she always looked. Like my wife, like the woman I'd built a life with, like someone who wouldn't do this. But she was doing it. I made a decision in that moment that I didn't fully understand. Maybe it was shock. Maybe it was curiosity. Maybe some part of me that had been sleeping for years suddenly woke up and wanted to see how far this went. I typed a response, using her phone. "Come over. My husband isn't home today." I hit send before I could second-guess myself. The reply came back within 30 seconds. "Really? Now?" I wrote, "Yes, he just left for a work emergency. I have the whole evening." Another quick response. "I'll be there in 2 hours. God, I've missed you." I set the phone back down on the counter, exactly where it had been. My hands weren't shaking. I felt oddly calm, like I was watching this happen to someone else. "Did you need something?" Rachel asked, not turning around. "Just checking the time," I said. "My phone died." "There's a charger in the bedroom." "I know. I'll get it in a minute." I went back to my laptop. I didn't see a single word on the screen. My mind was racing, but my body felt heavy, anchored to the chair. I was calculating. 2 hours meant he'd arrive around 7:30. Dinner would be done by 6:45. We'd eat. She'd clean up. And then the doorbell would ring. What would she do? That was the question that fascinated me most. Not who he was, not how long this had been going on, but what she would do when he showed up and I was still here. "Dinner in 20 minutes," Rachel called out. "Sounds good." She started talking about her day, something about a problem at work, a co-worker who wasn't pulling their weight, the usual complaints I'd heard 1,000 variations of over the years. I made the appropriate noises of acknowledgement. She couldn't see my face, which was good, because I don't know what expression I was wearing. The meatloaf went into the oven. Rachel washed her hands and came into the dining room. Sitting across from me with her own laptop, she started typing, probably answering emails. We existed in the same space, doing parallel tasks, like we'd done countless times before. I snuck glances at her, trying to see something different, some sign I'd missed. She looked tired. There were lines around her eyes that hadn't been there 5 years ago. She'd gained a little weight, but so had I. She was pretty in an unremarkable way, the kind of pretty that disappears in a crowd, but that I'd once found captivating. When had I stopped finding her captivating? When had she stopped finding me captivating? The timer on the oven beeped. Rachel got up to check the meatloaf, declared it needed 5 more minutes. She made a salad while we waited. I set the table, these domestic rituals we'd performed thousands of times. We ate dinner at 6:47. Rachel talked about possibly repainting the bathroom. I suggested a color. She disagreed. We settled on looking at samples this weekend. She asked about my day. I told her about a problem with a subcontractor. She gave advice I wouldn't take. It was the most normal dinner we'd had in months. At 7:15, Rachel's phone buzzed. She glanced at it, and I saw something flicker across her face. Anticipation, followed immediately by alarm. She looked up at me. "Everything okay?" I asked. "Yeah, just work thing. I might need to make a call later." "No problem." She stood up and took her plate to the kitchen. I heard the water running. She was taking longer than usual to wash the dishes. I could see her through the doorway, her back to me again, her shoulders tight. At 7:28, I heard a car pull into the driveway. Rachel froze. I watched her entire body go rigid. The car door slammed. Footsteps on the walkway. Rachel turned around, her face pale. She was gripping the edge of the sink. The doorbell rang. I stood up. "I'll get it," I said pleasantly. "No!" The word came out sharper than she'd intended. She caught herself, forced a smile. "I mean, I'll get it. It's probably just... I ordered something online, a surprise, for you." "That's sweet," I said. "But I'm already up." I walked to the front door. Behind me, I heard Rachel moving quickly. Heard her say, "Wait," in a strained voice. I opened the door. The man standing on my porch was not what I expected. I don't know what I'd expected, really. Someone younger, maybe. Someone more handsome. Someone who looked like he'd be worth blowing up a marriage over. He was average. Mid-40s, like me. Receding hairline. Slight gut. Wearing khakis and a polo shirt. He could have been an accountant or a dentist or an insurance salesman. He looked like someone I'd stand next to in line at the grocery store and never think about again. But his face went through a journey in the span of 2 seconds. Confusion, then recognition, then absolute terror. "Hey there," I said. "Can I help you?" He opened his mouth, closed it, looked past me to where Rachel had appeared in the hallway, her face ashen, and then he said something that surprised me. "I think I have the wrong house." But he didn't leave. He stood there, frozen, looking at Rachel, waiting for her to do something. "I think you have the right house," I said. "You're Jay, aren't you?" His eyes snapped back to me. "Who?" "Come on. Don't insult both of us." Rachel moved forward. "Michael, please. Let me explain." "Actually," I said, still looking at Jay, "I'm curious. How long have you been seeing my wife?" He looked like he might vomit. I didn't know you'd be here." "Clearly. I thought you were... She said you were working late." "I texted you from her phone," I said. I told you to come over. The color drained from his face even further. He took a step back. Why? Rachel's voice was barely a whisper. I finally looked at her. Because I wanted to meet him. Because I wanted to see what you'd do. Because... I paused. The truth was, I didn't know why. I'd acted on instinct, on some impulse I didn't fully understand. Because I'm tired of being the last one to know what's happening in my own life. Jay was backing down the porch steps. I'm sorry, man. I'm really sorry. I should go. What's your name? I asked. Your real name. He hesitated, then, Jason. Jason what? Does it matter? Jason what? Brennan. Jason Brennan. And how do you know my wife, Jason Brennan? Rachel cut in. He works in my building. We met at a conference 6 months ago. 6 months. Half a year of lies. Are you married, Jason? I asked. He nodded miserably. Does your wife know you're here? He shook his head. Then we have that in common. We're both idiots who trusted the wrong people. Jason practically ran to his car. I watched him fumble with his keys, watched him reverse out of the driveway too fast, watched his taillights disappear down the street. I closed the door. Rachel was still standing in the hallway. Tears were running down her face, but she wasn't making any sound. How long have you really been seeing him? I asked. 6 months, like I said. Is he the first? She didn't answer, which was an answer. Who else knows? I asked. That question seemed to surprise her. What? Who else knows you're cheating on me? Your friends? Your sister? No one, I didn't tell anyone. But the way she said it made me think she was lying. There was a hesitation, a caught breath. You told someone, I said. Michael, please, can we just... Who did you tell? She wrapped her arms around herself. Does it matter? Yeah, it does. She looked at the floor. When she spoke, her voice was small. I talked to Jennifer about it, last month. Jennifer, our daughter, 24 years old, married for 2 years, living across town. You told our daughter that you're having an affair? I needed to talk to someone. I was confused. I didn't know what to do. Something cold settled into my chest. What did she say? Rachel looked up at me, and I saw something in her eyes I'd never seen before. A kind of guilty defiance, like a child caught doing something wrong but still convinced she was justified. She told me to do what makes me happy. The world tilted slightly. She told you to do what makes you happy, I repeated. She said life is short. She said if I'm not happy, I should make changes. Rachel flinched. Don't be crude. I laughed. It came out harsh and bitter. I'm being crude. That's what's wrong here. Not the affair, not the lying, not the fact that you confided in our daughter before ending your marriage. My language is the problem. I didn't plan for this to happen. But you let it happen. Yes. At least she didn't make excuses. I'd give her that much. I walked past her, went to the bedroom, plugged in my phone. While it charged, I stood at the window, looking out at the street. The house across from us had Christmas lights up already, even though it was barely November. White icicle lights dripping from the gutters. It looked festive and false. Rachel appeared in the doorway. What happens now? I don't know. Do you want me to leave? I don't know. Do you want to talk about this? I turned to look at her. Our daughter knew you were cheating on me. She encouraged it, and you listened to her. She was just trying to be supportive of you destroying our family. That's not fair. No, I agreed. It's not fair. None of this is fair. My phone powered on. Notifications started flooding in, emails, texts, missed calls. I ignored all of them and opened my recent calls. I found Jennifer's number and hit dial. Don't, Rachel said. The phone rang twice before Jennifer answered. Hey, Dad, what's up? Did you know your mother was having an affair? Silence. Jennifer? She took a breath. Yes, she told me. And you told her to do what makes her happy. I told her to figure out what she wants. That's different. Is it? Dad, this is between you and Mom. I didn't want to get involved. But you did get involved. You chose a side. I didn't choose a side. You knew and you didn't tell me. That's choosing a side. What was I supposed to do? Run to you like some kind of spy? You were supposed to… I didn't finish the sentence. I didn't know how to finish it. You were supposed to love me? You were supposed to be loyal? You were supposed to think I mattered? Dad, I'm sorry. I really am. But Mom's been unhappy for a long time. Has she? You had to have noticed. I didn't. Well, that's part of the problem. I hung up. Rachel was sitting on the edge of the bed, her face in her hands. I stood there looking at her, this woman I'd spent half my life with, and I felt nothing. No anger, no sadness, no betrayal, just a vast, empty space where those feelings should have been. I'm going out, I said. Where? Does it matter? I grabbed my jacket and my keys and walked out of the house. I got in my car and drove with no destination in mind. I ended up at a bar downtown, a place I'd been to maybe twice in my entire life. I ordered a beer and sat in a corner booth. My phone buzzed constantly. Rachel, Jennifer, 2 calls from a number I didn't recognize that was probably Jason Brennan. I ignored all of them. I sat there for 3 hours, drinking slowly, thinking. Rachel had been unhappy. Our daughter had encouraged her to pursue happiness. Jason Brennan had been the instrument of that pursuit, and I'd been the obstacle, the inconvenience, the problem to be managed. How long had they seen me that way? How long had I been irrelevant in my own life? Around midnight, I drove home. The house was dark except for the porch light Rachel always left on. I sat in the driveway for 10 minutes, staring at that light, wondering what kind of man goes back into a house where he's not wanted. But I went in anyway. Rachel was asleep in the guest room. I could hear her breathing through the door. I went to our bedroom, my bedroom now, I supposed, and lay on top of the covers, still dressed. I didn't sleep. I stared at the ceiling and thought about 6 months of lies. I thought about my daughter encouraging those lies. I thought about Jason Brennan's terrified face. I thought about Rachel's guilty defiance. And somewhere around 3 in the morning, I realized something. I wasn't sad about my marriage ending. I was angry that they'd tried to end it without telling me. Before we go any further, hit the hype button, take a second to subscribe and like the video. It really helps the channel grow. And tell us in the comments, what would you do in this situation? I went to work the next morning because I didn't know what else to do. Rachel was already gone by the time I got up. She'd left a note on the kitchen counter saying she was staying at her sister's place for a few days. The handwriting was shaky. She'd signed it R instead of her name, like she was afraid to claim even that much identity. I crumpled the note and threw it away. The office felt surreal. My co-workers asked the usual, "How's it going?" questions, and I gave the usual, "Fine, you" responses. My boss, Trevor, cornered me by the coffee machine to discuss the Henderson project. I nodded in the right places, made notes I'd forget, agreed to deadlines I might or might not meet. At lunch, I sat in my car and stared at my phone. I had 17 unread texts from Rachel. I didn't open them. 3 from Jennifer. I deleted those without reading them either. 1 from an unknown number that just said, "I'm sorry about yesterday. J." I blocked the number. Then I did something I'd been thinking about since 3 in the morning. I called Paul Delaney. Paul and I had worked together 15 years ago, back when I was in a different sector of the construction industry. He'd moved on to private security, background checks, surveillance, asset investigation. We'd stayed in loose touch, Christmas cards and occasional beers, but we hadn't really talked in probably 5 years. He answered on the 3rd ring. "Michael? Jesus, is that you?" "Yeah, it's me." "How the hell are you? It's been forever." "I need a favor." There was a pause. What kind of favor? The kind you don't tell anyone about. Ah. His voice changed, became more professional. You want to meet somewhere? Yeah. Give me an hour. You know Murphy's, that Irish place on 7th? I'll find it. I left work early, telling Trevor I had a doctor's appointment. He barely looked up from his computer. I drove downtown, found Murphy's, and waited in a back booth. Paul showed up right on time. He looked good. Better than me, definitely. Fit, clean-shaven, wearing an expensive jacket. He slid into the booth across from me and ordered a water from the waitress. You look like shit, he said pleasantly. Thanks. What's going on? I told him. Not everything, but enough. The affair, the daughter's complicity, the feeling that I was missing something bigger. Paul listened without interrupting. When I finished, he leaned back and drummed his fingers on the table. So you want me to find out what I don't know, background check on the guy, see if there's more to this. I need to understand what I'm dealing with. You thinking about divorce? Probably. Then you need a lawyer, not me. I need information before I need a lawyer. He studied me for a long moment. This isn't like you, Michael. You were always the guy who kept his head down, avoided conflict. Now you're asking me to dig into your wife's affair. People change? Do they? I'm about to find out. Paul pulled out a small notebook and a pen. Give me everything you know, full name, where he works, whatever details you have. I told him about Jason Brennan, the conference 6 months ago, the building where Rachel worked. I gave him Rachel's info too, because Paul said context mattered. I'll need a few days, he said. Maybe a week. This isn't TV. I can't get you a full workup by tomorrow. I understand. And Michael, if I find something you don't want to know, tell me anyway. He nodded and stood up. I'll call you when I have something. Take care of yourself. After he left, I sat there for another 20 minutes. The bar was mostly empty, just a few afternoon drinkers scattered at the counter. The TV was playing a soccer match with the sound off. My phone buzzed. Rachel again. Please call me. We need to talk. I texted back. Not yet. She replied immediately. When? I turned off my phone. I drove to Jennifer's house without calling first. She lived in a suburb development about 30 minutes away. One of those places where all the houses looked nearly identical. Beige siding, 2-car garages, tiny front yards with young trees. Her Honda was in the driveway next to her husband's truck. I rang the doorbell. Darren answered. He was a big guy, 6'3", worked in IT for some startup. Nice enough, though I'd never felt like I knew him very well. He looked surprised to see me. Hey, Michael. Come in? Is Jennifer home? Yeah, she's... He glanced back toward the house. She's here. You okay? I need to talk to her. He stepped aside. I walked into the living room. The place was neat but generic, furnished like a catalog, photos of Jennifer and Darren at various vacations, beach, mountains, some European city I didn't recognize. Jennifer came down the stairs. She'd been crying. Her eyes were red, her face blotchy. When she saw me, she stopped halfway down. Dad, we need to talk. Darren, can you give us a minute? She asked without looking at him. Darren hesitated, then nodded and disappeared into the kitchen. I heard the back door open and close. Jennifer came the rest of the way down and sat on the couch. I stayed standing. I'm sorry, she said. About last night, about all of this. I should have told you. Yeah, you should have. I was trying to be a good daughter to both of you. I didn't want to hurt anyone. So you chose to hurt me by staying silent. That's not fair. You keep saying that. Nothing about this is fair. She twisted her hands in her lap. Mom was miserable, Dad. For years. I could see it even if you couldn't. Then she should have talked to me. Would you have listened? The question caught me off guard. What's that supposed to mean? When was the last time you really talked to Mom? Like, actually talked about real things. We talked every day. About what? Bills? Groceries? Which show to watch? I didn't answer. Jennifer continued. You stopped seeing her a long time ago. She was just there, part of the furniture. You stopped trying. So this is my fault? No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm trying to explain why she went looking for something else. And you think that excuses it? No, but I understand it. I looked at my daughter, this person I'd raised, whose scraped knees I'd bandaged, and whose high school plays I'd attended, and whose college tuition I'd paid, and I realized she was a stranger. I didn't know her at all. Did you help her? I asked. Help her what? Cover for her. Lie about where she was. Make excuses. Jennifer's silence was answer enough. How many times? Dad, how many times did you help your mother cheat on me? Twice, she said quietly. She said she was having dinner with me. I backed her up when you asked about it. I felt something crack inside my chest. When was this? Last month, and the month before. 2 of the few times I'd actually tried to make plans with Rachel, she'd said she already had plans with Jennifer. Girls' night, she'd called it. And I'd believed her because, why wouldn't I? My wife and my daughter spending time together. That was good, wasn't it? That was family. Who else knows? I asked. What do you mean? Jennifer flinched at the language. Nobody. Darren? No, I didn't tell Darren. But you told someone. She looked away. Jennifer, who else knows? It doesn't matter. It matters to me. She took a breath. Mom talked to Aunt Lisa about it too. That's all. Just us. Lisa, Rachel's sister, the one whose house Rachel was currently staying at. So everyone knew except me, I said. Dad, it wasn't like that. What was it like then? Explain it to me. We were trying to protect you. I laughed, harsh and bitter. By lying to me? By helping her sneak around? That's protection? We didn't know what else to do. Mom was falling apart. She needed support. And I didn't deserve the same thing? You weren't the one suffering. Wasn't I? Jennifer stood up. You were oblivious. You walked around this family like everything was fine while Mom was drowning. We tried to hint. We tried to get you to notice. But you didn't care enough to see. So you all decided I was the problem. You all decided I deserved to be lied to. It wasn't like that. Then tell me what it was like. Because from where I'm standing, it looks like my wife, my daughter, and my sister-in-law formed a conspiracy against me. That's dramatic. Is it? You helped cover up an affair? That's conspiracy. That's choosing sides. I was trying not to choose sides. Then you failed. I turned to leave. Jennifer called after me. Dad, wait. Please. Can we talk about this? I looked back at her. What's there to talk about? You made your choice. You picked your mother over me. That's fine. That's your right. But don't expect me to pretend it didn't happen. I love you, she said, and she was crying now, full tears streaming down her face. You have a funny way of showing it. I left. Darren was standing by his truck in the driveway, smoking a cigarette. He looked uncomfortable. Sorry you had to hear that, I said. It's okay. He paused. For what it's worth, I didn't know. She didn't tell me. That's something, I guess. You doing all right? Honestly, I have no idea. He nodded like he understood. Maybe he did. Let me know if you need anything, okay? Beer, someone to talk to, whatever. Thanks. I drove home. The house felt enormous and empty. I'd never noticed how quiet it was when Rachel wasn't there. Even when we weren't talking, she filled space somehow, moving through rooms, opening cabinets, turning on faucets. Without her, the house was a tomb. I ordered Chinese food and ate it at the dining room table while scrolling through my phone. I opened the texts from Rachel, finally, and read through them. Please call me. I know you're angry. I'm sorry. I never meant to hurt you. Can we please talk? Jennifer called me. She's upset. I'm staying at Lisa's. You can reach me here if you need to. I love you. I know you might not believe that now, but I do. The last one had been sent an hour ago. I typed, You don't love me. You love the idea of not being the bad guy. There's a difference. I hit send before I could reconsider. Her response came within seconds. That's not true. I wrote, You told our daughter about the affair before you told me. You let her help you lie to me. You weren't protecting me. You were protecting yourself. 3 dots appeared, then disappeared, then appeared again. Finally, You're right. I'm sorry. I put the phone face down on the table. The next few days passed in a strange blur. I went to work, came home, ate dinner alone, went to bed late, and woke up early. Rachel texted me every day. I responded occasionally, short messages that didn't invite conversation. Jennifer called twice. I let it go to voicemail both times. On Friday, Paul called. I've got some information for you, he said. You want to meet? Yeah. We met at the same bar. This time Paul brought a folder. He slid it across the table to me. Jason Brennan, he said. 44 years old, married for 19 years, 2 kids in high school. Works as a regional sales manager for a medical supply company. Makes decent money. No criminal record, no major debts, no red flags. I opened the folder. There were printouts, a photo of Jason from LinkedIn, his employment history, his address. So he's just a normal guy, I said. Seems like it. But here's where it gets interesting. Paul pulled out another photo. This one showed Jason having lunch with a woman who wasn't his wife. The photo was candid, taken from a distance. Who's that? I asked. No idea. But I saw them together twice this week, different locations, very friendly. You think he's cheating on his wife too? I think he's the kind of guy who cheats. Great. So my wife picked a serial cheater. Paul pulled out another set of papers. Here's your wife's employment history. You probably know most of this, but I wanted to be thorough. I skimmed it. Rachel had worked at Dennison and Associates, a marketing firm, for 12 years. Good reviews, steady promotions, no issues. Now look at this, Paul said. He pointed to a highlighted section. Your daughter, Jennifer? She started working at Dennison 6 months ago. Part-time, administrative work. I stared at the paper. What? She got hired in April. Same company as your wife. Didn't you know? No. She told me she was working from home for some startup. Paul leaned back. Maybe she is. Maybe it's both. But she's been on Dennison's payroll since April, and that's about the same time the affair started. My mind was racing. You think Jennifer set it up? The affair? I don't know. But it's a hell of a coincidence. How would that even work? The conference where your wife met Jason, I looked into it. It was a regional marketing summit in May. Dennison sent 3 people, your wife, another manager, and an administrative assistant named Jennifer Sawyer. Sawyer was Jennifer's married name. So, Jennifer was there? I said slowly. At the conference where Rachel met Jason. Yeah, and according to the conference schedule, there was a mixer the first night, then breakout sessions the next day. Jason's company was a vendor at the event. His job is to schmooze with marketing people, build relationships, close deals. You think Jennifer introduced them? I think it's possible. I closed the folder. My hands were shaking. Michael, Paul said carefully, I don't want to jump to conclusions here, but you asked me to find out what you don't know. This is what I found. Make of it what you will. Why would Jennifer want her parents to split up? I don't know. Maybe she doesn't. Maybe this is all coincidental. Or maybe there's something else going on that I haven't found yet. What else? I don't know. That's the problem. I only had a week. If you want me to keep digging... How much? My normal rate is $200 an hour. Do it. Paul hesitated. Michael, be sure about this. Sometimes the more you know, the worse it gets. I'm already in hell. Might as well know why. He nodded and took the folder back. I'll call you when I have more. After he left, I sat there for a long time. The bar was busier now, Friday happy hour crowd filtering in, people laughing, drinking, celebrating the end of their work week. Normal people with normal problems. I wasn't normal anymore. I was the guy whose wife was cheating on him with a man their daughter might have introduced them to. The thought was insane, but the more I turned it over in my mind, the less insane it seemed. Jennifer had been strange lately, distant. She'd stopped calling as often, stopped inviting us to dinner. She'd been busy with work, she'd said. New job, lots of responsibility. Except she'd been lying about what the job was. Why lie about working at the same company as your mother unless you were hiding something? I drove home through evening traffic, my mind churning. When I pulled into my driveway, Rachel's car was parked in front of the garage. She was sitting on the porch steps, waiting. 2 days later, Paul called with his full report. We met at his office instead of the bar. He looked grim. "You were right," he said without preamble. "The cash withdrawals correspond almost exactly with Jennifer's debt payments. Credit cards, mostly. Some car payments. She was using the money to stay afloat. And Rachel knew? I don't think so. I think Jennifer was just taking it without telling her. Then why would Rachel make the withdrawals? She had to know money was leaving the account." Paul pulled out a timeline. "Look at the dates. The withdrawals started in March, but the affair didn't start until May. For the first 2 months, Rachel probably didn't notice or care about a few $100s here and there. But once the affair started, she had other things on her mind. And Jennifer took advantage of that distraction." "Exactly. What about the visits to Jason's house?" I dug into that. The first visit in July was brief, about 40 minutes. The second visit in September was longer, almost 2 hours. I don't have audio or video, but I pulled phone records. Jennifer called Rachel immediately after both visits. She was reporting back. That's my guess. So she did go there to try to end it. She wasn't lying about that. Maybe. Or she went there to control the narrative, to make sure Jason understood who was really in charge. I leaned back in my chair. What else? Richard Ellis. I looked into him like you asked. He's clean. No affairs, no scandals, nothing suspicious. Rachel was telling the truth about that. He helped her get Jennifer hired as a favor, nothing more. That's something at least. But Michael, there's one more thing. And this is big. What? Paul pulled out a photograph. It showed Jennifer having coffee with a woman I didn't recognize. "Who's that?" I asked. "That's Kelly Brennan, Jason's wife." I stared at the photo. When was this taken? Last week. After everything blew up, they met at a cafe downtown, talked for over an hour. Why would Jennifer meet with Jason's wife? I don't know, but I have a theory. Tell me. Kelly filed for divorce 6 weeks ago. That divorce is expensive. Lawyers, court fees, splitting assets. What if Jennifer approached her with information? What if she's offering to help Kelly destroy Jason in court in exchange for something? In exchange for what? Money, leverage, silence. Take your pick. I felt sick. So Jennifer's playing both sides, helping Rachel with the affair, then helping Jason's wife destroy him. That's what it looks like. Jesus Christ. There's more. I tracked Jennifer's finances deeper. She's not just in credit card debt. She's underwater on her car, behind on her student loans, and she took out a personal loan 6 months ago that she's already defaulting on. She's not drowning, Michael. She's already drowned. How much does she owe total? Conservatively, $40,000, maybe more. The number hit me like a physical blow. How does a 24-year-old owe $40,000? Bad decisions. Bad luck. Probably both. But the point is, she's desperate. And desperate people do extreme things. I stood up and walked to the window. Paul's office looked out over a parking lot. I watched people getting in and out of cars, living normal lives. I need to confront her, I said. I wouldn't advise that. Why not? Because you're angry. And when you're angry, you make mistakes. You need to be smart about this. Strategic. What do you suggest? Get a lawyer. Protect your assets. Cut off her access to your accounts. Then decide if you want to pursue this legally or just cut her out of your life. That's it? Just cut her out? Sometimes walking away is the best revenge. I'm not interested in walking away. I'm interested in making sure she understands what she did. Paul turned his chair to face me. Michael, listen to me. I've been doing this work for 15 years. I've seen a lot of family situations go bad, and I'm telling you, if you go after your daughter publicly, if you expose her or humiliate her, it's going to blow back on you. People won't see you as the wronged father. They'll see you as vindictive. I don't care what people think. You should, because if this gets ugly, you're going to need allies, and you won't have any if everyone thinks you're the bad guy. He was right. I hated that he was right, but he was. So what do? I asked. Play the long game, document everything, build a case, and when the time is right, use what you know to protect yourself, but don't make it about hurting Jennifer. Make it about protecting what's yours. I nodded slowly. Okay, how do I start? First, get a lawyer, a good one, someone who specializes in family law and financial protection. Done. What else? Second, secure your finances. Close joint accounts, open new ones in just your name. Change passwords, revoke access, make sure Jennifer can't take another penny. Okay. Third, talk to Rachel. Figure out if you're divorcing or trying to save the marriage, because that decision impacts everything else. I don't know if I want to save the marriage. Then you need to figure that out, because right now you're in limbo, and limbo is expensive. I left Paul's office with the full report in hand. It was thick, over 100 pages of documentation, photographs, financial records, timelines. It was the complete story of how my family had fallen apart. I drove to a lawyer's office. Paul had given me a name, Margaret Chen, a family law attorney with a reputation for being tough and thorough. Her office was in a downtown high-rise, all glass and steel. The receptionist told me Margaret was in court but could see me tomorrow. I made an appointment and left. As I walked back to my car, my phone rang. Rachel. I answered. Yeah? Where are you? Downtown. Why? I need to talk to you. Jennifer called me this morning. She's threatening to hurt herself. I stopped walking. What? She called me crying, saying she can't take this anymore, that everything's her fault, that she wants to end it. End what? I don't know. That's why I'm calling you. I'm scared, Michael. I think she might actually do something. Where is she? She's at home with Darren. I told her to go to the hospital, but she refused. Did you call 911? She made me promise not to. She said if I did, she'd never speak to me again. Rachel, if she's actually suicidal, we need to get her help. I know, but what if she's just saying it to get attention? Then she still needs help. Either way, we can't ignore this. Will you go check on her, please? I'm at work and I can't leave right now. I wanted to say no. I wanted to tell Rachel this was her problem, that Jennifer was manipulating us again, that I was done being responsible for other people's choices. But I couldn't. Because if something happened to Jennifer and I'd done nothing, I'd never forgive myself. I'll go, I said. Thank you. Call me as soon as you know she's okay. I hung up and drove to Jennifer's apartment. When I knocked, Darren answered. He looked exhausted. She's in the bedroom, he said. She won't come out. She won't talk to me. She just keeps saying she's sorry. How long has she been like this? Since this morning. She got a call from someone, I don't know who, and after that she just shut down. I walked to the bedroom door and knocked gently. Jennifer, it's Dad. Can I come in? No answer. I'm coming in, okay? I opened the door slowly. Jennifer was sitting on the bed, her back against the wall, her knees pulled to her chest. She looked small, fragile, younger than her 24 years. Hey, I said softly. She didn't look at me. I sat down on the edge of the bed, leaving space between us. Your mom's worried about you. I know. She said you talked about hurting yourself. I didn't say that exactly. I said I didn't know how much more I could take. That's the same thing, Jennifer. No, it's not. I'm tired. Of what? Everything. All of it. The lies, the stress, the debt. I'm drowning, Dad, and I don't know how to swim. So stop lying. Come clean about everything. It might be hard, but at least you won't have to carry it anymore. She laughed bitterly. Come clean? To who? You already hate me. Mom's disappointed in me. Darren's losing respect for me every day. Who exactly should I confess to? To yourself. Start there. She finally looked at me. Her eyes were red, her face blotchy. Do you really hate me? No, but I'm angry, and hurt, and confused. I didn't mean for any of this to happen. But you did make it happen. That's the part you need to own. I was just trying to survive. By manipulating everyone around you? I didn't have a choice. Everyone has a choice, Jennifer. You just chose wrong. She started crying again, soft sobs that shook her shoulders. I wanted to comfort her. I wanted to pull her into a hug and tell her everything would be okay. But I couldn't, because nothing was okay. I need you to tell me the truth, I said. All of it. Did you introduce Jason to your mother on purpose? She hesitated, then nodded. Why? Because she was miserable. And I thought if she had something to focus on, something that made her feel alive, maybe she'd be happier. And if she was happier, you'd both be happier. And if you were both happier, the family would be stable. That's not how relationships work. I know that now. And the money? The withdrawals? I needed it. We were behind on everything. I didn't know where else to turn. So you stole from us. I was going to pay it back. With what money, Jennifer? You're $40,000 in debt. How were you ever going to pay us back? She didn't answer. And visiting Jason's house? What was that about? I wanted to control the situation. I wanted to make sure he understood that I knew what was happening, that I had power too. So you blackmailed him? I didn't ask him for money, I just told him he needed to be careful, that if he hurt Mom, I'd hurt him. By telling his wife? Maybe. I don't know. I was improvising. And that's why you met with Kelly? To tell her about the affair? She looked shocked. How did you know about that? I know everything, Jennifer. That's what happens when you lie to people. They stop trusting you and start investigating you. She buried her face in her hands. I'm so sorry, Dad. I'm so sorry. Sorry isn't enough. I know. You destroyed this family. Not your mother, not Jason, you. You orchestrated this entire disaster because you thought you were smarter than everyone else. That's not fair. It is fair. Own it. We sat in silence for a long time. Finally, Jennifer spoke. What happens now? I don't know. But you're going to pay back every penny you took. And you're going to get help, therapy, financial counseling, whatever it takes to fix yourself. Because if you don't, you're going to end up destroying more than just our family. And you and Mom? That's between your mother and me. It's not your concern anymore. But, no, you don't get a vote. You don't get input. You made your choices. Now you live with them. I stood up to leave. Dad? I looked back at her. Do you think you'll ever forgive me? I don't know. Ask me in a few years. I left the bedroom. Darren was standing in the hallway, looking uncertain. Is she okay? He asked. No, but she will be. Make sure she calls a therapist. Today. I will. And Darren, get your shit together. Get a job. Be a partner to her instead of another burden. She needs stability, not more chaos. He nodded, looking ashamed. I left the apartment and called Rachel from my car. She's okay, I said. Emotionally fragile, but physically fine. I told her to get professional help. Thank God. Thank you for going. Rachel, we need to talk. Tonight. No more delays. Okay. I'll be home by 6. Good. I hung up and sat in my car, staring at Jennifer's building. My daughter had tried to manipulate me, my wife, and everyone around her. She'd failed, but not because she wasn't smart enough. She'd failed because manipulation only works when people don't know they're being manipulated. Now everyone knew, and that changed everything.